Hi, everyone. It's Tony and Kristen Laidig.
Hello.
And we are here with my personal BFF, Natalie Marie Collins, who I met in an elevator and have watched just take off and soar ever since that day. She started out as a raw food coach and morphed into what she's doing today, which is primarily working with human design and biofield tuning. And so we're just going to jump into it. And I'd like Natalie to start out by elaborating on anything that I said that you want to, and then tell us the basics of what human design is.
Okay. So thank you for this. And I'm really excited to be having this conversation with both of you because I love talking all this stuff with you guys. Just to expand just a little bit, along my journey, I jumped into the business side of entrepreneurship because I just love it. I love the freedom aspect of it. I love the possibilities of it all. And it just spoke to me. And I took my years and years of corporate knowledge because I was stuck in corporate for 13 years. And so I took all of that and took it into online business and started really developing ways of being able to have creative expression, have all kinds of control and letting things go from the perspective of being an entrepreneur. You know, being introduced into raw foods, and because I just kind of like naturally went into that, I had quite the spiritual awakening with raw foods in and of itself. And so everything that I've always done is have this foundational piece of spirituality to it. So my flavor with entrepreneurship, and I became a business coach with it so I could show people how to actually put systems and everything in place. But there's always been the foundation of spirituality. And then human design came into my life and explains everything about who you are, in how you operate, how energy moves through you. And I knew immediately that I needed to coach and really build their business from their truth and who they are and who they're designed to be. And then bringing that along into the biofield tuning, when I discovered the tuning forks, I realized that we're able to use the sound and vibration from the tuning forks to reset our system and parts of us back to factory settings, which I realized was resetting us back to our human design and who we're designed to be. So this whole entire journey of now focusing on the human design pieces with the business foundation and bringing in the tuning forks is so much of what I'm about now.
And very, very unique combo. Explain to us what the heck is human design anyway?
So human design is the synthesis of ancient and modern technologies. The ancient ones being astrology, the I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, and also quantum physics. And there's a couple. The Kabbalah tree of life is in there as well. And so it's this combination that shows us that, and what human design teaches us is that in 1781, we evolved from a 7-centered chakra being to a 9-centered being. And human design shows us how everything is interconnected, and then bringing in the language of the I Ching and how energy in our imprinting from birth really allows us to see who we are here to be. We are a piece of a puzzle. And when we are that expression of ourselves, we complete that piece of the puzzle. And so it shows how energy moves through us and becomes that unique expression that we are here to express out to the world.
Yeah, this thought just came to me while you were talking, that in a manner of speaking, human design really is like a spiritual unified field theory. And, you know, some people might hear some of the words that you were using, like Kabbalah tree of life and I Ching and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, whenever you look at those teachings from really a scientific perspective, they all make sense. They all fit together. And in reality, they're not separate things. they all function together in this one cohesive form that actually makes a lot of sense. Whenever you first started into it, you know, Kristen was telling me about it. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's the last thing I need is another thing.
It took him 30 days to come around to the
You
idea,
know,
which is in his chart.
whenever my human design was revealed, at first I hated to admit it, but ultimately realized that, okay, yeah, that's me.
It's become an ongoing joke.
That's
now.
who I am.
Anytime we have a big decision, he's like, I'm not through my 30-day cycle yet. Give me time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those who are familiar with human design, because it is becoming more popular, there's a lot of people who do not know about it. So if you don't know about it, don't sweat it. We'll walk you through some of this. But if you are familiar with human design, you may be intrigued to know that Tony is a reflector, Kristen is a mental projector, and I'm an ego projector. So there's 5 different types in human design. Okay, so when we look at the types actually represent the 5 different types of aura. Now, I'll go through these. One is manifestor, and they have an energy that pushes energy out into the world. And then there's generators and manifesting generators. These both have the defined sacral. And so that defined sacral is bringing energy in. So the aura for generators and manifesting generators are all enveloping, and it's like creates the community. But they are magnets, and they're always bringing energy in to their system. And they need that in order to be able to respond with the and And so then we have projectors who do not have a defined sacral. And so manifestors and projectors do not have a defined sacral or reflectors in that way. Projectors, because they don't have a defined sacral center, then they operate vastly differently than generators and manifesting generators, who create 70% of the population live in a go, 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 do, do, do type of world that is run by the generators and manifesting generators. And so us projectors and reflectors and manifestors kind of like got to navigate through the go, go, go world.
And the go, go, goes, I like to call that the hamster wheel energy. Like they can literally just go. And like, I used to beat myself up for being burned out so quickly when I tackle a to-do list. Like lists used to stress me out. I've had to learn how to work with them because they're necessary. But they used to really stress me out because I would get overwhelmed before I even started. And a generator or a manifesting generator would take a look at that list and go, okay, what do you want me to do first? And they just plow through it.
Why don't you define how you determine which type you are from a human design perspective? Because I know that there's some pretty cool practical science behind it all, which surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, no, there's at least one tool. I use an online tool and an offline or an app as well to be able to put in your info. But there is science to back all that up.
Oh, yeah. If you don't have your human design chart, you can Google it. This human design chart. One of the best places to go is jovianarchive.com, which is the home of human design. There's up in the menu bar, you just click on get your chart, and it's based off your birth data. And then that is the human design app that you can get. That's also a great tool, and it stores all of your information in a library, and then you can also like add all your friends in there too. Or not add your spouse or your your kids and your parents and your siblings. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you had mentioned something about, initially when you talk about or you think about something being based on your birth date, many people's thoughts immediately go to astrology, but it isn't quite that, because it also has to do with where you were born, the exact time that you were born. And I remember asking you about that one time, and you said that it has to do with cosmic energy or cosmic radiation that was passing through at that given moment, which is what impacts us.
Yeah, they're called neutrinos. So there's a neutrino stream that gets filtered in through all of the stars, all of the planets, and it filters through everything. So the moment you are born, you have a neutrino stream that comes through your body the moment you enter into the atmosphere. And that neutrino stream has all of the information of all the planets and the positions of everything for that moment, and that becomes the calculation of your design. Neutrinos are real; they are a thing. Science has proven them. So there's a lot of this stuff that has so much of it has scientific backing in it as well. There's also, when you pull your human design chart, you will see on the right side, you'll see black letters and symbols and numbers on the right side, and on the left side is a column of red symbols and numbers. You actually can't, oh yeah, you can see it up in the upper right corner. Is it the right corner?
Right there.
The black numbers and red numbers. So the red is actually calculated 88 days before your birth. We actually get an imprinting of that time. That is when the design crystal, so we have crystals that enter into the body, and that imprints the 88 days before your birth. Usually a question that comes up is, what about preemie babies? What about babies that are induced in labor and or C-sectioned or anything like that? We believe that everything is perfect timing, and it is as it is.
Right.
And so you are born at the exact time that you were supposed to be born, and your imprinting happened 88 days before your intended birth, whether that was induced by man or nature.
So how does figuring out your human design, we can say what you're going to say too, and then answer this. Okay. How does figuring out your human design help you manifest?
Okay. So first off, I want to answer the question, because I know it's coming, of, well, what do you do if you don't have your exact birth time?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
If you have absolutely no idea, my code for myself is noon. So anyone that has a noon date or noon time on any of them,
flip a coin.
You totally flip a coin. You can muscle test it if you want to. There's time rectifications done by astrologers. Like they can actually go through and calculate stuff. But sometimes just enter in noon. If you know it was mid-afternoon, enter 3 o'clock. So if people are born in the morning, all I know is I'm born in the morning, 6 a.m. I'm born in the evening, 6 p.m. So I do it in like 6-hour increments. And if it's like mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock, that would be my code for myself. Like that's my breakdown of that. So the more accurate you can be with your time, the more accurate your chart is going to be. So there are going to be deeper layers of stuff within your chart that are not going to be accurate if you do not have the accurate time. But sometimes you do what you can and you just get close enough. So how do you use human design to manifest? That's a loaded question.
Right? That's why we asked you.
So it's very fascinating when we look at manifestation, because we look at the law of attraction and it's like, just think positive things and, go with the gratitudes and all of this stuff. But if you're not in alignment with your truth of who you are, it's going to be chaos. And when there's chaos out in the world, it's unorganized energy, and unorganized energy does not create manifestations.
Right.
So the more that you can start to learn about your inner authority and your strategy on how your aura works is the beginning phase of how you can start manifesting the things that are correct for you. Doesn't always mean it's what your mind thinks it is. It's what your body goes, oh, hey, guess what? We have a direct connection with source, and I'm going to show you the direct path. So for generators and manifesting generators who have sacral inner authority, we have that aura that's always magnetizing things to you. If you can just sit back for 5 minutes and let the universe bring some things to you, because that's the most painful thing for generators and manifesting generators, is to actually wait for a minute and let the things come to you. Things are always coming to you if you just allow yourself to respond to it of, oh, I like that. That feels yummy and juicy and delicious in my gut. Go that direction. If your gut's like, I do not want anything to do with that. That's gross. But you do it anyways, that's chaos. And that's not in alignment with your truth. Then we have emotional inner authority, and emotional inner authority can be manifestors can have it, generators can have it, manifesting generators can have it, and projectors can have it. So 4 out of the 5 types can have emotional inner authority. And these people who have emotional inner authority need to wait through this chemical response that happens when something is presented to you. And it's waiting through that chemical up and down response to get the clarity. And I really view it as you're waiting through this up and down wave, the universe is saying, cool, the decision process has begun. And now we can start clicking things into place. And the manifestation process starts to work. And I watch it over and over and over and over and over again, is when someone with an emotional inner authority allows themselves to wait through that up and down wave and allow the universe to work with them to start clicking these puzzle pieces into place. When everything clicks into place and it becomes this like, yes, this, you know, and like clicks, and all of a sudden you may wake up one day and it's like, oh, it's clear. This is exactly what I need to do. These things happen. You may check your email. There's the next step. Like somebody emailed you about the exact same thing. You get on to, you get a phone call within an hour saying, hey, have you thought about doing this thing? I'd like to partner with you on this. And it's like, I just woke up with that clarity this morning. Literally, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea with things clicking into place. And it goes, and now the flow has opened. And that's the manifestation channel that happens with it. It's incredible to watch. There's so much magic that happens through that clarity. But for those who have the emotional inner authority, it's vital for them to wait for all those pieces to click into place so the Red Sea can part.
Right.
So would you say most designs are emotional inner authority? Most people, it's very common.
50% of humanity has emotional inner authority.
What's another one of the authorities?
So another one is the exact opposite of the emotional inner authority, which is splenic inner authority. And this is for manifestors and projectors. And splenic inner authority is in the now. Split decision, something comes to them and they know their spleen, it's a bodily sensation. It's either a yes or no from like this instinctual part that is the spleen. It may be a fuzzy little, like little BB sensation, or, because the yes is ultimately an expansion and the no is a contraction. So it's going to feel differently, but it may feel like, oh, it expanded out as like this little, like fuzzy little sensation, or it's like contracts down for like the no. And so it's an instinctual, in the moment now response. So it's complete opposite from the emotional center. Mm-hmm. It's in the now. They only know the answer in the now when the question or the thing, whatever it is presented to them. And it only speaks once. So if you wait 5 seconds and you're like, what was that? You missed it.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
Damn
it.
And so
that's why I have no hair. No, actually, I don't have that.
You're not the splenic.
No,
I know.
I don't have anything.
And then the next one is ego, which is the will center. Ego. And manifestors and projectors can have this. This is my personal inner authority. A lot more manifestors have it than projectors. It's really rare, just in general for projectors. But it's all about what you have the will to do. And it motorizes, well, some people it motorizes either the throat or the heart, depending on what direction it goes. So it depends on the configuration, again, with this. But for manifestors, it can either motorize the heart or motorize the throat. And it's this motor of, I have the will to do this. I can move mountains with this, but it's very finite. It's only within this tiny little circle of like, I have the energy to do this. If I go outside this circle, I got nothing. There's like no energy. And it's like, but I have energy to do stuff. But it's like, I didn't got it out here. You got to find like what that little thing is for you. And then you can move mountains with that energy. on the surface, it can look like a selfish inner authority.
Mm.
But the selfishness is ultimately becomes, because this is good for me and this is what I want to do, it's actually ripples out and becomes what's best for everyone.
How many different inner authorities are there?
There are 8 different inner authorities.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we've just covered.
I classify ego projected inner authority and ego manifested as 2 different inner authorities, even though it comes from the ego, because it's 2 different types and it expresses itself differently.
Makes sense.
So I break those up into 2.
Okay.
And the next one is self-projected, which is only for projectors, and it's the G center of the heart, that the seat of the soul that goes directly to the throat. So these people are designed to express out what's healthy for them, what feels good to them, what feels like they're right, it actually feels like their own personal expression of their heart through the voice. And these people need a sounding board. They need people to listen to them so they can start to hear what their truth is, because they're going to hear it come from their heart to their throat, and they need to be able to hear themselves say it. It's not a mental thing. You can't, and all of the inner authorities that I just talked about do not come from thinking things through. None of it.
Only that kind of projector with that authority needs a soundboard, or are there others that?
No, there's different kind of soundboards, and I'll get to the mental projector next, which is what you are. But these people,
wow, I'm no inner authority, so
right. And so self-projected needs a different kind of sounding board than you, Kristen, or the mental projector do. Okay, so the sounding board is really just, for the self-projected, is really just someone to actually just hold space for them to talk it out for themselves, and they'll figure it out for themselves. If they
they don't need a problem solver, they need a listener.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's another type of authority?
So the other type of authority is a mental projector. On some, depending on where you pull your chart, it comes up differently. So some say it's a sounding board, some say it's no inner authority. What it really means is that there's not a place in your body below the head that your inner authority comes from. For you, Kristen, and for those who might also have mental authority, when you actually speak things out, it actually will show up in your environment. So once the words leave your body and go into the environment themselves, they'll have a resonance tone to them. The correct resonance tones is for you, so you actually need to hear it in your physical space, and then it'll get reflected back to you, and it will resonate either yes or no throughout your body if that's correct for you or not. And so you having someone to hold that space for it to come out, so that person can reflect back to you of, oh, that doesn't sound quite right, or I don't think you should do that. You can actually see that reflected in them but they've got to be your trusted person or people.
Just by being married to a freaking reflector has basically put that on steroids, that process.
And then as a reflector, Tony, it's also very important for you to soundboard stuff out for 30 days, 28, 30 days. So every day for reflectors, the moon cycle is going to activate different gates and different channels inside of your design. You're going to feel differently about the same decision every single day while the moon is cycling through each and every gate. So it's really important for you to be today it's like this. Tomorrow it feels like this, and you can start to really feel through the different reactions of the feeling behind it, because it's very feeling based, and how this sounds for you. Does this sound correct for you at this phase with this gate activated? And so it's a process of feeling your way through for the 28-day cycle. And then at the end of the 28 days, it's so I've felt how it feels through every single one of the gates. This is my assessment of this. If you're still not clear, guess what happens? You go through another 28-day cycle.
28-day cycle.
Well, and what I found from an experiential perspective is that doesn't necessarily take in every imaginable decision that I have to make, because I can actually make decisions pretty quickly, because I hate indecision. But big decisions I have to sit on, and that has been very consistent.
We've talked about inner authority, and there's another piece that we haven't really discussed, which is the aura strategy. Each individual type has a different strategy to how their aura works. And so your inner authority plus your strategy, so strategy and authority, are the two combos of starting your experimentation of starting to dip your toe in to see how this really works for you. So I'd like to go through each of the strategies for the aura types real quick, so that people, those of you that are listening, that can really start to understand that this is a bit of a twofold thing. It's not just like, oh, listen to my gut and then go. For those who have sacral centers defined, who are generators and manifesting generators, there is that response that needs to happen first. They may not know what they want until it comes to them. Well, sometimes you got to go to the RV shows and start getting clear about what kind of RV do you want? Do you want something that drives? Do you want something that pulled behind? Like, what is this as it's being presented to you, so you can start narrowing it down and saying, I like that one. That one is delicious. In my gut, it says, that one. Like, that is just that's the juicy and yumminess to it. And if you have emotional inner authority on top of that, then you got to ride through the wave just to make sure that that's
after you see the price tag.
Yeah, but if you just have sacral inner authority and it says, well, guess what? That's the right one for you. But if it's and then you walk out of the RV show with an like nothing spoke to you, keep looking.
Yeah. And once you do, like, a lot of people be like, yeah, but then the price. Well, that's where manifestation comes into play. Once you listen to that, with that sacral authority and that strategy, boom, it will all fall into place. Once
you can start getting into where that is with the generator energy of things coming to you, with the manifestor energy, there's still a divine timing piece, but there's going to be, in a sense, like, manifestors get the downloads and they'll get inspiration from things around them and whatnot. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not like the coming to them magnet piece. It's like, oh, hey, there's a unique, different idea there. And depending on their inner authority, they can just go do it. But the strategy behind that is to inform. Manifestors need to inform, because the energy pushes out. People can't read them like they can the other types. And so they don't know what's going on. So if you want Moses to part the Red Sea for you as a manifestor, tell people you're doing this and you're going in this direction, and so they can get out of the way. And they're like, oh, let me scoot over for you. You go do your thing. And it's very unnatural for a manifestor to actually inform people on what it is that they're doing. But just trust me on this. Trust me on this.
Very vitally manifesting generator here.
Yeah, not a manifesting generator. That's a different thing. They need to be able to respond first, and then the manifestor part kicks in. That motorized throat piece kicks in, and that's when, like, okay, so once you've responded, then inform that you're going to go do this, because that's a powerhouse energy that gets kicked on with that. So that's that's a manifesting generator, and so they need to then inform after they've responded with their gut. And
so they're basically a hybrid of the generator and the manifestor. They're like best of both worlds kind of thing.
In essence, yes. But also the generator, or the manifesting generator aura, is a generator aura first. And then it'll push out energy after the response. The big hang up for manifesting generators that I have found is that they try to be manifestors first, because that's how they've been trained. Everybody wants to be a manifester. And then you ask the manifestors, and the manifestors like, you don't want to be a manifester, because the manifestors are the ones that have to go and make it happen. And that is not easy. And they're the ones that like have to be the go-getters. They're the ones that have to show up on and do the door-to-door sales and get constantly rejected. And that's why they're like, you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
They have to grow some thick skin on being rejected. Yeah. So then there's the projectors, and the projector aura is very penetrating for the other types. And projectors are designed to guide people, but to guide the right people. And so ultimately projectors just want to be helpful. And in order to be helpful and in order to guide, they need to wait for the invitation, because the right people will be magnetically drawn to them. Like, I don't know what it is about you, but you have stuff that I need. You're my person. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that just is the most incredible feeling for a projector. But most people do not want that kind of guidance, or are not ready for the wisdom that the projector brings. And so the projector needs to wait for the invitation. Once they get the invitation, then their inner authority can respond to whatever that invitation is. So there's a level of response to that. And once they can respond correctly and get into that inner authority mode for them, so it can be a little painful to wait for the invitation. For
Yeah, think.
And it's yeah. It's,
oh man, it can be frustrating. It's like, I know I can help you. Just ask me.
Yeah, and sometimes when we get into that, you can actually say, "Hey, I have a solution. If you're interested in hearing, would you like me to share it?" And then the other person can go, or If they go,
if they know to do that, and if they're not just
to
conditioned to answer yes, because that's what they're conditioned to answer is, well, if someone wants to help you, you always say yes.
You, as a projector, you can actually start to discern what's an actual invitation and what's not.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've noticed.
If they go, if they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead and tell me, you're like,
no,
that's not a real
we can feel the energy of their yes, whether it's coming from the or the yeah. And if it's border,
I guess I'll be polite and you can just tell me. But no, but if it's an like, please, and you're like, let's working as a projector with the wide variety of inner authorities that projectors can have, because projectors are the ones that have the most different inner authorities, the most variety of that, and waiting for the invitation and working through what the correct answer is based on what your inner authority is as to whether you should go for that invitation, accept the invitation or not.
Right. And that was actually very empowering when you told me that I had the choice to accept the invitation. It didn't mean that I had to say yes to them in return. I could turn them down if I wanted to. And I've done that. And I felt so much peace about that.
Yeah. Because just because you got an invitation does not mean that it's a correct invitation for you. Yeah.
So then what about reflectors and all of this? I kind of feel like I'm a gunslinger in the Wild West.
You are.
Essentially. So the way that the reflector aura works is the reflector aura samples people around them. So there's a bit of a barrier between you and other people because you're completely open center wise. And so that can make anywhere that you're open with a center, it can feel very vulnerable because you amplify out other people's energies. So because
very easily to be able to tell, that means nothing's in color in its chart. Nothing is defined.
Yes. And so with all the centers being open, your aura is actually a protection field around you that like comes in and like just like samples other people's auras. It's like, are you a good person for me to be around? What's your temperature rate right now? Like, what are you feeling? And are you safe? Like, are you good for me to be around? Is it healthy for me to be around you and you? And so you can you just sample everyone around you to see if that is correct for you. And so for you, here's the cool thing about being a reflector is that you're not necessarily playing by everybody else's rules. You have your own little set of rules. And so It's very much more about being in the right community for yourself. Because if your community is healthy, you will feel healthy and you will be healthy. If your community is unhealthy, you're going to feel that and you're not going to be healthy. And so it's very much
serious.
And I go to Walmart. Walmart's nasty.
If you've never been to the circus, go to Walmart after midnight.
I think for all of the types and authorities and strategies, it really does come down to communication, how you communicate with yourself, with those around you, and ultimately with the universe as to what you actually want to manifest. And then once you figure out those things and get your ducks lined up, it just starts to boom, 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 boom. But it always starts with knowing yourself, like know thyself. But yeah, just knowing that design has really changed everything.
It's been helpful. Yeah.
Very much so. So we could talk for the next 12 hours about this subject.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Natalie and I's phone calls typically go about 90 minutes to 2 hours. So I would like to ask you, which I know the answer, but what is the best way for people to schedule a session with you or just even get more information about either human design chart reading or biofield tuning if they're ready for that?
Yeah, I try to make it easy. It's NatalieMarieCollins.com. And on my homepage, you can scroll down and see where you can click on and get a human design reading or, that's it.
There it is.
Yep. So you can come in and schedule a biofield tuning or a human design reading, whichever one you feel that you want to start with first. Also up in the menu under services, you will find the links to those as well.
Awesome.
Highly, highly recommend anyone watching this or listening to this interview. I highly recommend at least starting with a human design reading. Just so you have a foundation and a baseline, and you can run your chart with one of the tools that Natalie already recommended, just so you have some sort of idea, and you can read a lot on your own about that. But personal experience, there's nothing like having someone say, oh, well, your gate's in this. I'm like, what the heck is a gate? Like we just glossed over that. We didn't even get into that. But like she said, human design is deep. I've got a textbook back there that's this thick. Yeah. And that's just like the beginning.
Several that thick.
You have several that thick. Yeah. I have the first one that you recommended that I get, and I have referenced it. So there you can, this is a rabbit hole and it leads deep. But just to get started, just knowing what type you are and what your strategy and authority is, that alone would be game changing.
Yep.
Well, thank you, my dear, for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely been fun.
Yeah. So we'll see you later, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
And cut.